And you would just sleep on it. Would be Elf on the Shelf.
Yeah.
Torian on the Shorian.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That almost worked.
I think I could have thought it through more. Like I heard it, and I knew also that we could have done better.
Yeah.
I think. Like I did not intend to collect mugs, and now I have like 20 of them.
Sure.
Do you have anything like that?
Harry Potter wands.
Harry Potter wands?
Yeah.
Like the ones you get at Universal Studios?
Yeah. The pandemic happened. I was watching Harry Potter. I was like, I want some wands.
Mm.
And I just spent an embarrassing amount of money on them.
So you bought them. You weren't at Universal. You bought them online.
I bought some at Universal, but then I ordered the first batch that I bought I literally ordered them from Universal in Florida from my couch.
Oh. Here's the thing. I think I would like that,
Uh-huh.
but I also always try and remind myself in the back of my head where I'm just like, hey, are you going to use it? What do you need it for?
Sure.
And now I break that rule constantly, but
I don't listen to that voice. I don't listen to that voice. That voice, I would have nothing in my house if I listened to that voice.
The tea that we are drinking is Kuki Hojicha from Ipoto Tea. It is wonderful. Have you ever had Hojicha?
I have not.
So it's a green tea. It's made from the stems of. So all tea. I don't want to bore you to death.
No. Tell me. I love tea.
All technical tea comes from the Camellia sinensis plant, and Hojicha, the specific one at the very least, is made with the stems of that plant.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's really tasty.
Do you also drink coffee, or are you just a tea person?
I literally had coffee before you got here.
Okay.
I drink it both.
Wow.
I drink it both often. I would say more often than not, on any given day, I've had both.
You're a madman.
I'm kind of crazy.
You're a madman.
I'm crazy. I'm weird. And by the way, for those steeping at home, this is going to be a weird one. It's boiling, which you don't usually do for a green, and it's 30 seconds.
Why don't you do boiling for green?
So a lot of times when you're brewing a tea, the temperatures that work best to unroll the leaves or release the aromatics are different depending on the type of tea. So green would usually be 185 to get the best aromatics.
Okay.
Something like a black is usually like a 212 or a 200. This happened to be boiling, and it's only for 30 seconds, whereas most green teas are 2 to 3 minutes.
That is, may I curse, by the way?
Please.
Fucking fascinating. That is fascinating. I'm basic, I guess, when it comes to my tea drinking.
Well, do you like tea? I didn't ask.
I love tea.
You do?
Yeah, I don't drink coffee.
What?
I don't drink soda, really. I'm like tea in the morning and then water.
Is this your first cup of tea for the day?
Oh, yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, this is a stupid question, and I understand that. Are you just someone who's able to, like, wake up and just... You're like, yeah, I can handle the day, and then you have tea for pleasure, or does the tea give you caffeine, and you're like, I need the caffeine?
For pleasure.
You don't need the caffeine.
No, I don't know. I've just always been a morning person. I love like waking up early, taking my dog out, doing laundry, answering work emails all by like 9 a.m.
What?
It's so attractive.
I'm like too stunned to speak. You okay? So, also because, and we'll get into like how we met and all that stuff, but like you're a performer. I was going to say like a comedian, but you're also an actor. You're a performer.
Yeah.
Which means a lot of times you're out late. Are you like pulling a late night and then still doing all this?
Yeah, my sleep schedule isn't great.
Are you like doing what, 5-6 hours a day and then just rocking?
Probably.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I could be better. I try not to have as many late nights now that I'm 33.
You don't look a day over 32.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Jokes aside, you actually look like you're in your late 20s. But
okay. I'll take that.
I guess we must have, when we met, you must have been in your mid to late 20s.
Yeah, mid 20s, I think.
Because I think I met you at I think I was 25 or 26.
What year was that?
Ooh, 2012, 13.
So yeah, I was literally either 22 or 23.
Wow.
Yeah, I was a baby. I know.
And you're like,
I know.
You still look the same. What do I need to do? Do I need to drink more water?
You literally look the same.
It's very nice.
Yeah, maybe a bit more
scruff.
Yeah.
Here's what I'm noticing on you, and I don't want to comment on your facial hair too much for those who are just listening, but like it grows so evenly. And like mine does not grow as evenly as yours does.
This is the most that it grows though. Like I'm jealous of folks that can grow like big, beautiful.
Yours is perfectly even.
Thank you.
There's no patches.
Thank you.
I can do right in my cheek area. It just kind of goes, nah, we're fine.
Yeah, but you have
Doesn't want it.
hair on your head, and I don't. So there's that.
The other thing I think about, and this doesn't have to do with baldness or not baldness. I think this has to do with like things in general. Like if no matter how you wear your hair, whatever your vibe is, if you come in with confidence,
Yeah.
I don't think it really cares what you're rocking.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
I can accept that.
You are someone who has always struck me, even when we first met, and we first met in that crazy circumstance of we were in a show called Cupid Has a Heart On, which had such an establishment. I came in maybe a year or two before you, but not a ton.
Mhm.
So I would argue that you and I were both decently new at the same time. I don't know
Sure.
if you saw it that way. That's how it felt to me. Like, and you still, I feel like, had like you walked around with a confidence that was very attractive.
Thank you.
You're just like, I know what I'm doing.
Thank you.
I think there are a lot of people in the world who walk around like, I don't know what I'm doing. You know?
Yeah. The secret is I don't know what I'm doing, but
Good.
I
Great.
fake it till I make it. I love being in circumstances where I'm working with people that I admire that are way more knowledgeable than me. And the only way to learn and grow in those situations is really like, put up or shut up. And so I love throwing myself into the lion's den of those circumstances.
Sure.
And so a lot of it is, yes, I do have confidence, but a lot of it truly is like faking it till I make it.
Where are you originally from?
Chicago.
You're from Chicago. So that's one of the reasons probably that you started in comedy in Chicago was because you're like, okay, I kind of know this area. I can kind of do this.
It's funny because this sounds so fucking pretentious. but
I can't wait. Drop it, baby. Get pretentious.
I'm a classically trained actor.
Ooh, me too.
And so comedy really wasn't. I've always had like a very silly side, but comedy was not something that I was interested in. I didn't want to do Saturday Night Live. I didn't get improv, but part of my major, they made us take an improv class. And I hated it at first. I was like, what do you mean there's no script? And like, we're just
no script?
Yeah.
What's my character?
Yeah. How dare you? What are my intentions?
Yeah.
And then that sort of doing that and then finally just sort of giving into it and embracing it. And I had a really great teacher named Jack Bronis, who's a big teacher.
I know Jack. I had Jack. Yeah.
Yeah. He was just so the right teacher for me at that time. And it sort of broke the mold. And the floodgates opened up. And so that sort of is what transitioned me into comedy. But it was not my intention at first to do comedy, which is funny.
That is so funny. Because what's interesting is, so I kind of went in the opposite order of you.
Yeah.
So I was doing a lot of comedy and then did 2 years.
This is good.
You like it?
Yeah.
I'm so glad you like it. I love it.
Yeah.
I was doing a bunch of comedy and then did 2 years of intense Meisner training after I was doing comedy.
Gotcha.
So I kind of did a reverse order of that, but like, yeah, it is interesting to me, and it's not really fair of me to talk about your performance in this way because I haven't seen you do dramatic stuff, so that's not really fair. But like, you seem very
I'm
organic.
really good.
Yeah, well, I'm sure. You seem very organically funny to me. Every time we met, you have an energy of a comedian. So that's interesting that it didn't register for you. You were like, no.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like I think growing up, a lot of being like a big queer kid, a lot of my, I think, defense mechanism was comedy.
Sure.
And being the first one to crack a joke about myself or make the whole room laugh, and then all of a sudden people would like me. And so I think that's why acting wise, I was like, I want to do drama and really show that I am more than like the goofy best friend type. You know what I mean?
Got it.
So I think I really just sort of pushed comedy away and didn't want to embrace it. And then doing Second City, doing Cupid, starting to do stages, being on teams, all of a sudden really showed me that I can still be a great actor, but also comedy is a vehicle that is going to help me not just as a performer, but in life in general. And has really set me up for success in everything that I do. And so once I finally embraced it, it was like the best thing ever. But there was a lot of hesitation when I first started doing it, just because of the way that I used it growing up.
Well, and what you were just talking about, which is I think is really interesting, and I don't want to speak for comics everywhere, but I think there are a lot of us who are in this situation of like, okay, like I am gonna make the joke first before other people can make it. Like that was, having huge features like I do, and like very Jewish looking. Can I say that? I don't know.
You can say it.
I can say
I
it.
can't.
You can. I didn't want to tell everyone. Like, you were looking at me very anti-Semitically throughout this whole thing. No, but like, so I was the first to make that joke. But what's interesting is like now the more I've become a performer, the more like that stuff is part of my identity.
Mm-hmm.
Like as you became more of a performer, were you kind of like, okay, like as someone who made a lot of these jokes to get ahead of it,
Mm-hmm.
now that I'm older, like being queer is part of my identity that I want to lead with. Do you ever lead with it? Like in your comedy or your writing?
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. It's like my superpower now. I feel so
Yeah.
lucky that I am black and queer and bald, and like all the things that make me me really do sort of help me walk into rooms and like just stay grounded and be who I am and sort
Yeah.
of like do all the awesome things that I'm able to do. It took a long time to get there.
How could it, like, I don't understand the people who go, from the day I was born, I knew
Yeah,
I was
no.
confident.
Yeah, that's not my journey at all.
No,
But I
mine.
will say now in my 30s, I'm like, oh, I love everything. Even my name, I hate it for like a long time, and it took me I know.
You have
I
such
know.
a good name.
I appreciate that, and people have told me that my whole life. But I think growing up in Chicago, but having I had a ton of white friends, and
I
so
love that. Okay, so people who are not watching it, he just directed that motion at me. He goes, "Tons of white friends, this schmuck."
you
And then,
know,
yep.
and a lot of
Uh-huh.
them were named Josh or Nick
Oh
or
God,
Ashley or
are there more than one Josh? Oh
hate to break it to you.
no.
There's one of
Okay.
them where, but I wanted to assimilate really bad and
Uh-huh.
sort of not be, I'm already so, when you see me, I'm such a presence already. I'm,
Yeah.
6'3". I'm a big guy. There's just a lot that comes with me. So my name, I was like, oh, I wish that I was like named something else. But again, now that I'm older,
Yeah.
I love it all and I'm thankful for it all.
But I feel like for you, when you were talking about like, you bring a lot, like you're 6'3", and you're black and you're queer, and like that brings a lot into it. How did you feel when you met? For those that are listening, there's an incredible improv team and sketch that came out of Chicago named Three Pete.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely incredible. I feel like most people who know comedy probably know who they are, but like you could Google it. How did you feel when you met all of them? Because that must have been like, hey, like these are incredibly top tier, in my opinion, top tier performers who said, you're a top tier performer. We want you to hang with us.
It uh it was amazing because
Yeah.
like I was pretty fortunate in my comedy career in Chicago, but up until then most of the people on 3P, we would only see each other, we would be around one another but we didn't get to work together, or there's only two casting directors in Chicago, maybe three.
Mm,
So we would see each other at auditions and always be pitted against one another.
sure.
So having the team be like, hey, we want you to come join, like it was just one of those moments where I was like, this is so cool, and I've like idolized these guys
Yeah.
for years, and like it was crazy, super intimidating at first.
Sure.
And it was one of those moments where I was like, okay, I'm just gonna dive in because they're fast, they're smart, they all like know each other, have a great rapport. But it was really one of the best decisions ever.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really great.
And I'm trying to remember the timelines of when everybody, because I would say, and tell me if I'm wrong, most of 3P I think is in LA now.
um
Is that wrong?
yeah, well, we're pretty equally split between New York, Chicago, and LA still. The majority is here,
Mm.
but like Chris Red, John Thibodeau, folks are in New York for work, and then Lisa Beasley, Allison Ringhand is still in Chicago.
I didn't know Allison's still in Chicago. Yeah.
She's a principal. And
What?
she to me she was the star of the group, and I think that she could easily move out here and like star in a TV show, but she has been teaching kids forever and she doesn't want to do the Hollywood thing, and she refuses to leave her job being a principal on the south side of Chicago. And so, which is even more admirable. I'm like, oh God, like
And that would be a great show. I mean,
know.
we have Abbott Elementary, but like,
We do.
is she a principal at like a high school? Could be a different energy. Could be a different show.
Yeah, I think she's one at a junior high school. So like Abbott Elementary junior.
Yeah, and I think that spinoff. Pitch it now. Everyone heard it here. Listen, if that show gets made, we want residuals, not a ton,
100%.
just a little bit.
100%.
Though we are with the writers. But I think like I mean that's an interesting thing, and I'm guilty of it, right? Like
Yeah.
I still have my day job very much because like it is a very scary thing, I think, to go and I listen, I don't know Allison's full story. I mean, like we know each other pretty well, but like or decently well, but like I don't know her full story. But like I would imagine she went through a lot of training to be able to do what she does.
Mhm.
She's had a lot of experience. She's done a lot of teaching and now she's in administration, but she's done a lot to lead up to that point. It is very hard, no matter how passionate you are about, comedy, performing, whatever, to just say, well, I'm going to shut that valve off entirely and just
Yep.
pray that this other thing works.
It's very scary.
Hard.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like we were talking off mic that like, and tell me if this is inappropriate to say, but like you do some other things during the day.
Mhm.
Have you ever like thought in the back of your mind, I'm going to shut off that valve entirely. I'm just going to go for performing. Even if I end up like, eating scraps, I'm going to go for it.
100%. When I first moved out here,
You didn't come with a job or you didn't even look for a day job. You're like, let me go.
No, I think if ever money was tight, I would like walk dogs on the side or something like that. But that
Love
wasn't
dogs.
really like a full on day job at all. I really sort
Yeah.
of moved out here, saved up, moved out here, and really sort of was like, I'm just gonna go for it. Let's get weird. Let's be vulnerable. And just like
Yeah.
chase the art. And it was the best. It was the best. I mean, I like money. I like money. I like making money. I like having it.
I would hope.
But I also had a really good support system when I moved out here, which I tell people all the time. Like the biggest thing moving to an LA or New York, just make sure that you surround yourself with people that you love, that trust
Yeah.
you, that are down to be with you when like you're down and out, and
Yeah.
like also at like your greatest time. So I was very fortunate, and I moved out here with like a lot of really close friends.
At
That
the
we
same
could all,
time?
yeah, randomly.
Really?
Yeah, I moved out here with my best friend and his partner. But then throughout that year, most of Three Pete moved here. Two other really close friends moved out like within the year that I moved here, and none of us really talked about moving here, especially Three Pete. None of us knew that we were going to move to LA, and then we all, for the most part, moved here.
I remember I thought when I was announced I was moving. Announced is such a obnoxious way to say that.
Who did you announce it to?
I was on CNN and
Okay.
I was like, and there was a big chyron that said Josh Lindsay.
Yeah,
moving.
exactly.
When I told people I was moving, there were 3 reactions that
Okay.
I got. One was and that came from a lot of people, probably even you. The other one of the other reactions was, "Are you kidding me right now?"
Yeah.
Which like fair. That one
Sure.
I understood, especially because like I put all that time into Second City, and then like it's a much longer story. It's not worth getting into on mic, but like had a conversation with a lot of people at Second City, and they were like, "Hey, like you're doing the right things and this that," and then I was
Of
like,
course.
"Cool, I'm not gonna wait till I'm like 40 to be on your stages."
Yeah.
And then the third one was everyone saw that coming. And I was like, I didn't see it coming. How did
Yeah.
all of you see it coming?
Right.
And there was just a thing where they're like, it was an inevitability that like there are certain people when you meet them where they're like, the Chicago comedy scene will fulfill you until it doesn't.
Hmm.
And please tell me if you disagree with this. Chicago is one, in my opinion, probably the best comedy scene in the world.
I agree.
However, at a certain point, you are pretty much forced to go to New York or LA if you want to take this next step.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. It's really great, but because Second City really is the end all be all there,
Yeah.
there isn't, I guess it's what do you want to do within your comedy career?
Sure.
If Second City was that top goal, great.
Mm.
But you're going to age out, phase out. There's going to always be someone, younger, smarter, faster at comedy and what they're looking for on stages at Second City.
Sure.
And I felt that I love comedy, but I totally feel that it is a tool to use to do a lot of other things outside of comedy as well. And so I knew that Second City was never my end goal, and so I knew that I had to move to New York or Los Angeles in order to further the things I wanted to do.
Why here and not New York?
I wanted to do New York originally. I was a musical
Really?
theater guy. Yeah. I was all about, I like wanted to do like Broadway and live in New York and all that stuff. And then
I could see you on that.
I appreciate
Sorry,
that.
go ahead.
Thank you.
Well, you and I also sang together for like 2
Yeah.
straight years. So yeah.
Yeah. That was my whole thing. I really never planned on doing TV and film. That was another thing like improv where it kind of just happened.
Mm.
And I was like, oh, this is really like interesting. I've just always been a bigger than life sort of person. So TV and film was not something I wanted to do because I was like, oh, like, you know, you have to be quiet and sort of like intimate. And I don't want to do that.
I was quiet?
Like,
Fuck that.
Yeah.
Let me be loud.
Yeah. And so, but I came to visit LA a year before I moved here, and I was just being a Midwesterner and doing 26 winters at that time. In Chicago.
That you put in your time. Dude.
I put in the work.
Yeah.
So I visited, and then it was really sort of coming here, seeing mountains, and I was like, I've never seen anything like this. This is crazy.
Yeah.
And then my best friend being like, I think I want to move there. And I was like, you know what? I'm young. I don't have kids. Why not? And I moved here, and it was the best. And now I'm lucky enough where I get to go to New York and work, but I don't think that I would want to live there, which is crazy to think about.
Is it just because like it's a slightly slower pace here, it's slightly more visually interesting over here, or is it like I don't want to go through those winters again?
It's all of the above. It is like LA, there's so many people here, but it still feels so spread out. In New York,
Yeah.
as I've gotten older, I used to think that I was an extrovert. I loved being out, loved being around people, loved meeting people after shows, all that shit. And as I've gotten older, I've become, in my mind, an extroverted introvert, where my social currency is very precious to me, and I get spent like a lot quicker than I used to.
Part of me thinks that when you hit 30, and I may be wrong because you and I did the exact same thing.
Yeah.
I was like extrovert to extrovert, like on that Myers-Briggs shenanigans. Like I was fully all the way on the end of extrovert.
Yep.
If I don't get some time to myself now, I'll lose my mind.
100%.
Like I love being out. I love hanging with people. I love having a good time. I love that. I love talking to you. This is great.
Yeah.
And equally, I would like some time alone.
100%.
And I don't know when that happened, but it just kind of did for me. And I was like, I'm good now.
Yeah. And in New York, I mean, even going to the store is like a whole thing, and you're running into people, and it's just on all the time. And I love going there. It's such a vibe. Some of my favorite people live there. But goodness, I don't think that I could do it. Also, like for what I pay in rent here for my apartment that I love, I would be living with like 5 roommates.
In a closet.
In a closet.
You'd all have different shelves.
Yeah.
And you would just sleep on it. Would be Elf on the shelf.
Yeah.
Torian on the Shortian.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That almost worked.
I think I could have thought it through more. Like I heard it, and I knew also that we could have done better.
Yeah.
I think. Well, I feel like we could jump into the first segment. Are you ready for the Newly Friend game?
I'm so ready.
The first segment is a Newly Friend game. It's like the Newlywed game, but we're friends. I left a dry erase board there for you with a marker.
Really fancy.
It is fancy. The way this works, I'm gonna ask you a question. We're both gonna write down our answers and flip our boards and see if we got it right. And then for me, we're gonna write down a question. Sometimes it's the same, sometimes it's different. And then we're going to flip our boards and see if we got the same one.
Okay.
Now, you and I both lived in Chicago, and we are now living in LA. So my question for you, and we're both going to have the same question. My question for you is, what do you miss about Chicago the most? Don't tell me the answer. You're going to write it down. But what is the thing that you miss about Chicago the most? I'm going to write down and see if I can get your answer. And then we'll flip our board, see if we got it right, and we'll do the same question for me. So don't tell me, but write her down.
Okay. Oh, gosh. And I think I spelled this word wrong, but it's okay.
Okay, so I think I stand a shot because this word can be spelled wrong. Okay, you ready? Flip your board on 1, 2, 3. Oh, man. I was not right.
Yeah.
I thought Torian was going to say the community. I thought that was because you really don't have community in LA in the same way you do in Chicago. Torian said museums.
But the community has moved out of LA, or excuse me, out of Chicago, I feel like. So that would have been my answer if I had a lot of people still there. But like even a lot of my family members since I've moved to LA have moved. But our museums in Chicago, I didn't realize it because I'm a Chicagoan, but like our art institute is insane. Our Shedd Aquarium is insane. The Museum
I
of
just
Science
went
and
to the Shed
Industry.
in December.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a spoil of riches, and I didn't realize that although Los Angeles has great museums, but I really do think we have the outside of New York who really kill it.
I'm
on
a
the
New
museum
Yorker. I
front.
get it. Yeah.
I think Chicago really, and I think about them quite often. But the community, I do.
Oh, yeah. Now
that
you're
is a
like,
great
yeah,
answer.
you're
Yeah.
backtracking.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, I love all the people.
Yeah.
I'm gonna specifically send this clip to Allison and let her know that you don't miss the
Okay,
community.
please
at all.
do.
So we'll do the same question for me. What do you think? And don't tell me, write it down. What do you think I miss most about Chicago? And I'm gonna give you. Well, I'm not gonna give you a hint.
No. Go ahead.
No. I think just pay attention to the conversation we've already had. What do I miss most about Chicago?
I'm gonna be wrong, but you know what?
You're gonna be wrong with pride.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
Want to flip your board on 3?
Yep.
1, 2, 3, flip.
Public transportation.
I brought up the red line like 8 times. Torian, I said public transportation. Torian said the price of living.
I mean, that kind of goes with it, right?
Does it?
Yeah.
I
Totally agree. And that's another thing growing up in Chicago. I didn't realize how great our public transit was until I went everywhere else and realized how horrible it is.
It is so good. And you could put the board down. That's the end of the Newly.
That was really fun.
Yeah, we had a good time.
I'm going to do this more often with
Yeah,
people.
you want to just come over? We'll just do that.
Yeah.
Forget the podcast. We'll just play the Newly Friend game. I just used to love the idea of like, I always had a book in my backpack.
Yep.
I would hop on the red line, do my thing, or the brown line or blue line or whatever. Blue line definitely needed a book for that. But like, and you just like knew. I assume you were probably similar, but like I just knew all the lines I needed, like 22, 36, 66, 70, 171. Like I knew the ones I took.
It's just easy to get around in Chicago. We're
Can't
on
do
a
that in
grid. No, you can't. I've
Like-
been here almost 7 years and I still don't get it.
If you, like, for example, like if you wanted to get, I think you said Toluca Lake is where you're at. If you wanted to get to Venice, where we are right now, I have no clue how to do that.
Same.
I'm sure there's a way.
And we don't have to.
No, we don't.
Because we have maps
That's
on
true.
our phones.
I
And
use
will-
Waze,
Yeah.
which always leads me into terrifying
You're a
left
Waze
turns.
person.
Are you not?
No. Apple Maps, baby.
Apple Maps?
Yeah.
Well, hold the phone. Literally, Waze and Google Maps are up here. Honestly, I would use MapQuest before Apple Maps.
No way.
What?
And for people listening, do they even know what MapQuest is?
No, does that date me a lot? I just looked at Elliot. I feel like he's my kindred here.
Yeah. I was a religious MapQuest person.
You know what's crazy? And please,
What?
like, tell me this is insane, but I don't think that it is. I think one of the things that younger generations, I don't care how old this is going to make me sound, one of the things that younger generations will not have to deal with nearly as much as our generation did is just getting lost.
I used to, when MapQuest first came out, I didn't have a printer. So I would actually write down the directions by hand. And if you missed one,
You're out of luck.
you're out of there. But how fun, how dangerous
To
we
get
lived
lost?
back in the,
Do you ever, and by the way, I'm going to answer first so you feel comfortable answering it. To me, I have a lot of trouble doing this. So
Okay.
I'm going to say that. Are you ever able to just like put your phone down and like go leave the house without it?
No.
Yeah, I want to be able to do that.
It's like walking outside butt ass naked.
That's how it feels to me.
Yeah, no, I always think if I do leave it at home, that's when something catastrophic is going to happen, or like I'm going to.
Or like Scorsese's like, I want you in my next movie. And you're
Yeah.
like, I should have been by the phone.
Hollywood's calling.
Yeah.
No way. My phone. And plus, like, I work in an office, so like just, work emails and those types of things. And more importantly, I need to be on social media every 2 seconds. So
Do you post a lot on social?
that's a great question. What's a lot?
I don't know, 3 times a week.
On your your story, or do you mean on your actual page?
Well, what you're telling me now is that you do post 3 times a week to your story.
To my story, I do. But
5
to
times a
my-
week to your story?
It's totally dependent.
Did
like,
you post your story that you're coming to this podcast?
I did not.
Well, clearly something's up then. Don't
I
feel
want to
good.
surprise people. Yeah, it's all dependent on the week. If I'm out doing stuff, like last week I was in New York for the GLAAD Award, so I did post a lot because I got to reunite.
You kind of gotta.
Yeah.
You got
then
to
they're
reunite
just-
with who? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Sorry, with my castmates.
Oh, like Fire Island castmates.
Fire Island
Oh,
castmates.
again, we need to touch on that in a second. But go on. I want to hear the rest of the posting.
Yeah, but posting to my main like page, I used to do that a lot, and then I moved out here, and it's again this like extroverted introvert thing where I was like, I started getting really in my head, and I was like, this is stupid. Like people don't want to, this is why I don't have a Twitter, because I'm like anything that I tweet, I feel like, oh, why am I even saying this? This isn't like interesting to people, so I
I mean,
just don't
Twitter's
do
the
it.
least important of the bunch, I think.
I know, but social media is just funny. But I do like having it because I like keeping up with other people and what they're doing, and I like being nosy. And it's also fascinating to see who adds me to their close friends. There are people that I consider a close friend, but then there are random people who I don't consider a close friend. They're gonna
And they
watch this
put
and be
you on
like, "How
close
do?"
friends.
Yeah, and I'm like, "Why?"
I want to jump back to you said that you reunited with the cast. I gotta ask because obviously I've known you for a really long time.
Mm-hmm.
I've met Joel a bunch of times. I have not met Matt, but I've been a fan of Matt's for a very long
Matt
time.
Rogers, good person.
Yeah. How did you get into all that? I have to assume you knew some of these guys and how did Fire Island come to be? Because I loved that movie and I did not know you were in it when I started watching it. And I
Hilarious.
saw you and I grabbed my girlfriend who cannot watch a movie without being on her phone and was like, put your phone down. I
Oh,
used to perform with him every single week.
yeah,
And he is in this movie. Oh my God.
yeah. I met Matt Rogers and Bowen Yang years ago at Chicago Sketch Fest.
Were they doing Culturistas?
No, they were doing, I forget what their New York, they had a New York improv team.
Okay.
And then it was my first improv team, and we performed right after one another. And I was like, they had like gay people on their team, and I was like, who is this team? They were just so damn
They
funny.
had
And
to
I
have
was
been
obsessed.
great. Yeah.
Yeah, they were really great. But I have not seen them in years. And then I did a short play of Joel's in like 2011, I think, that he wrote for this like theater festival in Chicago. And we have a lot of mutual friends in common, and we run in the same circles, but I
Yeah. Yeah.
didn't really know Joel like that, and I didn't really know Bowen or Margaret Cho or any of the people that I got to work with
I
in the
mean, the
movie.
legend, Margaret Cho. You need
The
to say the legend before you say
legend,
her name.
the legend, the icon.
Probably one of the more influential people in stand up that is not often in the conversation of influence, but actually is one of the bigger
She's the
influences.
coolest. She
Yeah.
is like, yeah, we can go
Whip
on and on about
smart.
her.
Yeah.
Just smart, and just has been doing this forever.
Yeah.
And it was wild. But I had taken, this was like 2021, and I had taken a year off from acting to
Yeah.
work in casting, and so I hadn't auditioned in a while
This was 2021.
that we shot this movie.
Oh my God. I feel like it was like 2 days ago. It was 2021.
It
Okay.
came out last summer,
Okay.
but we
Yeah.
shot it in 2021.
It just feels so recent.
I know.
Yeah.
It's weird. And so long story short, this casting director from Searchlight Pictures hit me up about doing the audition. I was
Yeah.
like, this is hilarious. I haven't auditioned in like a year. Let me just do a self-tape and put it out there. I expected nothing of it because I was like, there's no way that I'm going to book a Searchlight movie. And then she emailed me again and was like, we want to have you meet the director. So I met the
Hold on.
director.
Not even a callback or a second tape.
Yeah.
You went from a cold taping to meeting the director.
Yeah.
Who directed Fire Island?
Andrew On, who's like incredible.
It sounds vaguely familiar. Do I know other stuff?
He has this movie called Driveways that did really well and did the festival circuit, but I feel like Fire Island was like his first like huge thing, and now he's directing on Bridgerton and like
Oh my God.
yeah, he's killing it.
Yeah.
And I knew that Joel wrote it, and so I was like, oh man, this is like Joel's movie. This is so
I hope
crazy.
you dropped him a
But-
note.
Well, I met with Andrew. Andrew was like, we would love to offer you the role. I was like, this is crazy. And so once I officially signed my paperwork and got the role, I Instagram DM'd Joel, and I was like, hey, I don't know if you remember me. We haven't talked in a decade, but I think I'm going to be doing your movie. And I'm like, I'm so stoked. And then Joel replied with, who do you think suggested you for it, bitch? And I was like, so you just never know the impression that you leave on a person, and you never know where the people that you're working with, where they're
Yeah.
going to go in their careers. And so this little short 15-minute play that Joel was a playwright on, I had no idea that 10 years later, when he sells his movie to Hulu and Searchlight, he would think of little me. So it was really crazy. And then yeah, the rest is history, which
I
is
mean,
nuts.
and maybe this is a loaded question and I'm open to this, but like, did you, I guess maybe not when you got cast, even though I think you could have done this when you got cast, but after it came out and you saw this movie, which in my opinion, I think it's fair to say, objectively, whether you like the movie or not, is incredibly well made, well acted, well shot. Now, in my opinion, I think it's also just wonderful. You can ask Jess. I loved it.
Thanks.
Like continued to speak about it like for the next 3 days after I'd watched it because I was just like, why aren't all movies like this?
Yeah.
Like they nailed it. There wasn't any like weird, crazy crap or like strange camera lenses. Like it was just like
Sure.
good.
Sure.
But after you saw that and you saw the reaction, which I don't think I'm the only one who is saying like, I loved it.
Mhm.
Were you like, I made it. I did it.
Um, a a little bit, yeah, I can't lie, but it also was just shooting the movie and being on set. I've never taken an on-camera class a day in my life.
Could
So
have fooled me with that
in
movie.
any of the stuff that I've gotten to do TV and film wise has been sort of really mind blowing and makes me quite emotional because it's like I'm living baby Torian's like wildest dreams. So the movie coming out and being well received means a lot and it's been awesome.
Yeah.
But I told myself be present while shooting the movie
Mm.
and just soak this up and understand this is like a really wild time and being around other queer people and on like Fire Island, which is like super historic in the gay community and stuff like that. It was insane. And so I told myself no matter how this is received, um, this was a awesome experience. Now it doesn't hurt. It does not.
You can play with the couch
It,
as much as you want. I don't mind.
it doesn't hurt that people feel seen or feel like their group of friends are being represented on screen. But it did feel a little like, oh man, this is fucking cool to be just a small part of this, experience.
I also find it so interesting when like you like hear a lot of like weird discourse about well, I don't think there's a market for gay love stories or whatever. And I watch Fire Island and I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. I saw myself in like 3 of the 4 characters. So like
I appreciate that.
I was so in there. Especially I don't want to like pick one character over another because I saw myself in everybody,
Pick 'em.
but like Bowen's neuroticism
Mhm.
and like confidence and self-doubt that are always kind of just like side by side.
Yes.
Like no matter how much like he's got a great sports and like great group of friends, like all this stuff, there's always that like hint of self-doubt that like I'm not enough or I'm not the person or like,
Right.
oh that like that was like watching myself on screen. So I'm always just like, I find that so interesting that like sometimes that discourse comes around, right? Where it's like, well, oh, like the world's not ready for this. I'm like, I saw myself more in this movie than I have in a lot of movies that are hetero love stories.
Sure.
Like I don't like, so I don't know that commentary really bothered me because Bowen's character for me felt like I was watching myself on screen.
I agree with all of that, and I think it's one, shout out to Joel for
Sure,
writing
great
a movie
writing,
like
yeah.
that feels universal, and two, I talk about this with people all the time, but understanding a story that features queer characters, a TV show that features all black characters, instead of us saying this is a gay rom-com or a black TV show. No, Fire Island was a rom-com
Wonderful
that
rom-com.
just happened to feature queer people.
Completely.
And so understanding that dialogue, I think makes it more accessible and universal to straight people, gay people, and people all across the board versus people being like, oh, I'm straight. I don't really see myself in this, gay love story. It's like, no, we
Just a
have
love story.
that's exactly what it is. And like to your point, we go through the same shit. Our inner saboteurs are very strong. We sometimes don't feel deserving of love from family, from friends, from romantic partners and all that stuff. So I've had so many, I just had a guy message me like 2 days ago saying that he watched the movie with his wife and he just was floored because these types of movies aren't movies that he normally watches, but he felt so seen um in this movie. And I was like, that's great. And hopefully the biggest point, this movie opens doors and opens conversations for many more projects like this to be
I hope so.
greenlit, because there was a lot of discourse with our movie and with the movie Bros and how they were competing against one another. And I'm like, there's 1,000 hetero romantic comedies, good, bad, and
But those
ugly.
also were not the same movie.
At all. But because it features two gay casts, all of a sudden we need to be pitted against one another. And that is not the case. I love Bros. I love the new Queer as Folk TV show that came out. I love Fire Island. But none of our movies, the queer community is not a monolith.
Yeah.
And so we cannot tell an entire group story in one or two or three projects. We need many more projects like this greenlit. So if anything, hopefully Fire Island does that.
I mean, I don't want to make a pitch here, but I'm just going to say, I'm just going to throw this out there, and I'm going to leave this alone. I'm going to let this out there into the world. If any like development execs are listening to this, could Fire Island pretty easily get turned into a good TV show? I think so.
TV show, maybe. A lot of people have been asking about a sequel as well.
I want to follow these guys more than just in a movie. I want to hang with them.
I love that.
For like 12 episodes.
I would love that. And Joel always says, if the story makes sense.
Which I think is the most honorable way to do it. Like, don't force it if story's not there.
Yeah, I'm not really down, and I don't think any of the cast would be down to just do a second movie just to like do it.
Yeah.
But if it makes sense, I think let's let us, the cast, grow up a bit more, and let's revisit. And then, yeah, if the story makes sense, I would love to have us all come back, but I would love to follow Margaret's character. I think she's got a lot of stories to tell.
They just dangle a little with her.
And a lot of those stories that her character tells in the movies are actual Margaret Cho Fire Island stories. Okay, some were embellished. But yeah, Margaret has the stories that she would tell us. I can't tell on this podcast. But she literally told us one time she was doing this lesbian comedy festival where Katy Perry and Ariana Grande opened for her. It's just like the wealth of experiences she has is incredible. And I think that would inform a great sequel to follow her character and let us just be a part of her story. But
I would watch that.
Yeah, I would love for something else to come of it. But if it doesn't, I'm like just so happy with like how it's been received and just being a part of it.
I am so happy that you were a part of it because I was already liking it from just like seeing the trailer. I was like, this is going to be great. This is like, because it's like right down the barrel for me. Like, like a good rom-com. Yeah. Right down the barrel for me. So I was like excited to see it. And then when you popped in, I lost my mind. I was just in the best way.
Thank you.
I was just like, oh my gosh. I think the only challenge you're going to have, and I say this is a major compliment, y'all are all so good. I think it's just like, you're going to be so in demand over the next decade. Going to be hard to get y'all back in the same room at the same time. And that's a great problem to have.
Yeah, I do agree with you. I will be available, but I feel like I do feel my castmates are superstars.
If it's up to me, you won't be available. I'll get you in something.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But I do feel Joel Bowen, who's doing Wicked right now, so stuff is shut down because of the strike, but he was flying from SNL to London weekly to shoot Wicked, and Matt Rogers is on like 12 TV shows and he hosts his podcast, and so everyone's super busy. But I do think, again, we all love each other. We're part of a group text chain where we text basically every single day.
Hopefully there are no green bubbles in there.
No green bubbles.
We talked about this, by the way. This is no judgment to Andrew. We talked about this. This is a joke that we made right before we started recording.
Yeah, no green bubbles. But I do think, again, if the story is right, and we all have the time in our schedules, I think everyone would jump at the chance to do something else within this universe.
Sign me up. I'm going to watch.
Okay, cool.
I'm already ready.
Great.
So when you talk about it, just know you have a viewer. And
that means a lot.
And I'll go see it in theaters.
All right.
Are you ready for the final segment? It's the lightning round?
Absolutely.
So these are fast questions. They do not at all have to be fast answers. But these are just the questions I like to ask as I'm ending the podcast. And I like to use an index card because it makes me feel like a late night talk show host. Could you see it? Maybe.
I absolutely can see it.
Yeah,
no, truly.
What is a favorite ritual of yours? So for me, like I love brewing tea. What is a favorite ritual for you?
What's a favorite ritual of mine? In the morning when I wake up, I love to either put on like a musical theater soundtrack
Oh,
and or gospel
love.
and
Yeah.
start my day off. Something about music in the morning just really sort of just makes me feel good, and it's I love singing, so I think it's just I got a song in my heart,
Mm,
Josh. And
love.
so yeah, so in the morning having music on and sort of washing my face, getting ready to take my dog out and stuff like that is something that I do literally every morning, and if I don't, I feel off.
Bless you that you wash your face before you take the dog out, because I will admit sometimes I've like Jess and I have gone out like whether to grab coffee or like to quickly run an errand, and I'll turn around and be like, I didn't wash my face
No, I
yet.
have to.
I know you're right.
I
You're
have
right.
to.
I'm saying
Yeah.
I'm wrong. You're
Yeah.
right. Number two, what is a running bit you have with a friend or a partner that makes you laugh?
I don't know if it's necessarily a running bit, but I am a very observant person.
Sure.
So anytime someone gets like a haircut, changes their nail color or something like that, I have to call attention to it immediately. So like if I walked in and I noticed that you got your haircut, I'll be like, okay, haircut.
That's
Okay,
okay. That's a
haircut.
bit.
Okay, shirt. Okay, shoot. So yeah, that's
I need a haircut. I wish you hadn't chosen a haircut. You're
no,
like, hey, you need
your
a haircut.
hair looks nice.
Thank you.
Yeah, it looks really nice.
You're very sweet.
You're welcome.
Question three, can you do an impression of one or both of your parents? And the worse the impression, the better.
Oh God. Yeah. My mom. I talk to her on the daily, and so she always wants to pray for me.
Oh, I like that though. That's
It's
nice.
really sweet, but she will pray for me on anything. Like I'll be like, yeah, my day was good, Mom. I have a headache or something, and then she'll go, all right, baby, bow your head. Is your head bowed? Dear Jesus, take this headache away from my son. I just want to make sure that he has a clear thought, clear mind, clear heart, and just will like go on. It's really cute.
I was gonna say, like, your mom is the sweetest woman alive. Yeah.
She is the sweetest, but like Jesus can fix anything. It would be like her motto, I think, and I'm with her. But yeah, she will pray over anything. If my dog hasn't, taken a shit yet, she's like, okay, baby, bow your head. Is your head bowed? Dear Lord, let my son's dog have the healthiest bowel movement on the face of the, like she's
don't get what you don't ask for.
That's very
what
true.
I'm saying. So like,
that's very true.
Someone could argue like, oh, Jesus is dealing with like probably bigger stuff, but I'm like, you know what though?
Yeah.
You don't know when Jesus might have a second.
Yeah.
Might be like, let's get that dog going.
100%.
You don't know.
Yeah. And it's adorable. And it's like, it's something that used to embarrass me because she will do that in public. It's not just over the phone.
Good.
But now as I get older, I'm like, you know what? She's one of one.
Good. I'm into it. I love, what's your mom's name?
Shakita.
Shakita. Shout out, Shakita.
Yeah.
We love you.
Like the
Looking down
banana.
barrel. We love you.
We love you, Mom.
Question 4, have you ever experienced imposter syndrome? And if so, is there a particular moment that
All the
sticks with
time.
you? All the time.
Yeah. To go back to Fire Island for a second, because I hadn't acted in over a year.
Yeah.
When I shot that movie. And a lot of my castmates knew one another already. Like they had either worked on Broadway together, or Bowen and Matt and Joel were already best friends. Bowen and Margaret were shooting this show together. So a lot of them already knew one another.
Yeah.
So, and my role is being a part of the main friend group. And so I felt very in my head of coming into like this already established real life friend group. And there was one scene in the movie where my character is wearing like wrestling singlet sort of situation, and he's surrounded by all these very ripped gentlemen.
Sure.
Is what I'll say.
Yeah.
And I was like super in my head and kept thinking like, am I supposed to be here? And my cast, my director, the people that we were shooting with, the crew, everyone was just like so supportive. And I don't really think that they knew this when we were shooting it, because I kind of kept it to myself, but I was super in my head, and they don't realize how much they uplifted me and made me sort of break out of that. And I just had to remind myself who the fuck I am.
Yeah.
And that I was meant to be here. And it was a really sort of revelation of a moment for me. Because I was in my head like that first week of shooting really, really bad.
Well, you couldn't tell on screen.
I appreciate that.
I don't know if that means
Fake it
anything.
till you make it.
That, but and you know what? You made it.
Yeah.
Final question for you. I usually say, what is your favorite tea or comfort? But I know you drink tea. So what's your favorite tea?
What's my favorite? I'm such a basic.
There's
Dude.
nothing wrong with basic.
Give me Lipton.
Good.
Like a basic.
Good.
A basic. I like. Is matcha technically a type of?
Sure. Yeah, matcha is a type of green tea. Yeah.
I used to hate matcha.
Okay.
And I like the last year, an iced matcha with 1 pump of vanilla will change your life.
Great. And this is a judgment-free tea zone. It's a JFTZ. So anytime you want to get in the mix, you say whatever you like. We're good.
What's your favorite tea?
Of types, a Genmaicha, specifically the Rishi Genmaicha is my favorite Genmaicha.
Oh yeah. Of
Yeah,
course.
you know what I'm talking about.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah,
I think
try
I
it
know that one.
sometime.
Yeah.
Torian, thank you so much for being on.
Thank you for having me. This is really great.
Anytime you want to come back, you let me know.
Okay, I will.
Good. That was Torian Miller. You can follow him at Torian Miller on Instagram. Steep Conversations is produced and edited by Elliot G.B. Our associate editor is Martin Alvarez. Our theme song and additional music are by Oliver Hymack. Our cover art was done by Neil Fraser with photography by Matt Mazisco. Social media by Dia Villegas. Please write a review and rate our podcast on Apple Podcasts and wherever else you can. You can send any questions, comments, newly friend game suggestions, or tea suggestions to steepcombos@gmail.com or tweet us at steepcombos. I'm Josh Lanzette, and you can follow me on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook at Josh Lanzette. We'll be back next week, so until then, happy steeping.
There was this year, this was like 3 years ago, where like 4 different Torians added me on Instagram.
No.
And I blocked all of them.
You have to. You have to.
I was like, I don't know if I was added to some Torian group on social media or something, but I sorry to the Torians, but I blocked every single one of them.
Can I say this? I'm not sorry to the Torians. I just looked right down the barrel. Forget all of you.